Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news with conservative views. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, and, I don't do this program by myself.
Hey, I'm your co-host today, Mike Piwowarski, and welcome to Taco Tuesday.
Psych! Cause it's Taco Tuesday! Where is it? Taco Tuesday!
I mean, welcome to The Rundown.
The Taco Tuesday on The Rundown.
On the run. There we go.
Excellent. I got to tell you, now I have had both. I have had tacos in Florida as well as several other states and California. I still have to say, California has the best Mexican food. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you, man.
You could say you're wrong, but it's all right.
I could say I'm wrong, but then I'd be wrong.
I think we can all agree that the best Mexican tacos you can find are just close to the border.
Wherever it may be, it is more than likely close to the border.
Yeah.
Either that or it's generally off of some stand that has just been erected or set up on a roadside somewhere.
And you rush to get there before the health department does. It is literally the best Mexican food you'll get. There's a couple spots in Orlando that the health department has not found out about yet, and it's good.
It tastes so good going down.
Good. Yeah. Oh yeah. It just goes down. Just the way it goes down.
It can also though often make for a good colon cleansing.
Yeah, listen, that's the risk of going somewhere the health department has not been. But it's a trade-off. Flavor for porcelain time.
All right, well, hey, Mike, let's go ahead and jump into today's news. So there seems to be this big push right now in Congress to go after suppressors. We already know that the president is looking to do whatever he can via executive order in order to ban suppressors. But now you've got members of Congress, including Dianne Feinstein, who were basically going after suppressors. And recently, Dianne Feinstein put out a tweet which basically said, gun silencers and suppressors are dangerous and don't belong in our communities. They hide the sound of gunfire from potential victims and law enforcement. Removing them will save lives. And then another member of Congress, this person, a member of the House, actually also put out a message saying that silencers are not tools of self-defense. They are tools of murder, and they have no legal application. Now, as someone who is both a firearms instructor, an FFL or a retailer, and as well as just an avid supporter of the Second Amendment, I'm going to guess, Mike, that you have some opinion on these words.
Craig, the first thing I'm wondering about is how come in Congress we don't have some sort of cognitive ability test like we have in many states for driving. When you reach a certain age, I think it's 70 in most states, that, listen, you can still have your driver's license. You just have to come in and prove that you can still see, you can still hear, and you can still make decisions that get you back and forth every day. Much like we need to see with Feinstein. Have you ever seen anything she's done where she gave an answer and didn't have somebody in her ear giving her that answer? She's completely run. That office is completely run by her aides. She is just the mouthpiece anymore. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. The background on this, Craig, we've seen many members of the House, now moving forward to have suppressors, come off the National Firearms Registry to get the Hearing Protection Act, reintroduced and passed. And then, of course, somebody on her staff has told her suppressors are bad. Suppressors are bad. Craig, here's the fascinating part about this. All right, what to get a suppressor, you have to apply and get one through the National Firearms Act, which is going to take you 9 months to a year. You're going to pay $800 for this accessory. You're going to pay an extra $200 tax stamp. Yet after you do that, you're going to go screw it onto some other gun and commit a felony, according to her. Listen, it's going to take the ability of the bad guy, or take the ability of the good guy to run from a firearm because they're not going to be able to hear the bullet. It's not even how that works. It just reduces the volume of the noise enough to where it doesn't become permanent hearing damage. It's not this movie quiet whisper nonsense that she's referring to.
Well, and I've told you about this before. We actually had here in California, the representatives from the Brady campaign actually went out to a firing range with firearms experts and folks from the gun owners of California and the NRA. They went out and they shot various different firearms, and they got a chance to listen both up close as well as from a distance. And in a committee hearing, she had to admit that, there's no, you can hear a firearm. It is not silenced. It is merely suppressed. And that's why when you have people continually putting out ignorant information, not just ignorant, this is flat out lies. These are just flat out lies in order to try and push an agenda. And what makes me mad is no one calls them on this stuff. At least, let's put it this way. No one who is, part of the, we need to be following the science people.
Yeah, listen, I don't think she's lying. I absolutely think she has no clue what she's talking about. Again, I've seen her in testimony, in committee, get up there and give us an answer, and then have her whispered in her ear by one of her aides, and then she changes her answer because of what they told her to say.
Yeah.
I'm now told that yes, we did do that. She's what? Are you kidding me? Somebody, please give this woman a finger to nose test, and let's see if she got the ability to even stand on her own.
Well, once again, we all know that it's all about a narrative, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to push a narrative. And, it's not just done when it comes to guns. Let's look back at everything that happened on January 6th. Now, I am the first one to tell you I don't support violence as a way in which to seek political redress. And so whatever happened at the Capitol, I know a lot of people committed some crimes and they need to be held accountable for those crimes. But one of the big narratives, the false narratives that's being portrayed, was that it was a deadly encounter and that people were killed. And the fact is that there were 5 people who died on that day. And we've now determined that at least there was only one person who was specifically deemed to have died as a result of interactions with protesters on that day. And that was Brian Sitnick. They kept trying to say from day one that he was a police officer who was hit in the head and died as a result of his injuries. Well, 2 days after the event, a radio station and a number of other media sources were reporting, no, he died of a stroke. Well, that didn't stop the rest of the media from continuing to push this narrative that he was killed by Trump protesters. And it even got to the point where a month after the event, the New York Times updated their story. It took them a month. They didn't put out a new story or a retraction. They just updated their story from a month previously, saying that, his cause of death was still under investigation. Well, now here we are several months later, and the medical examiner has now come back and basically said, yeah, he died of a stroke. And so now it has been solidly confirmed that no one who died on that day died as a result or at the hands of Trump protesters. And yet and still, you see nobody in the mainstream media actually standing up and correcting themselves because it doesn't fit a narrative.
Yeah, I like to call it the incursion at the Capitol, Greg. Is how I see it. Were there Trump protesters there? Absolutely. We know there were Trump protesters there, or Trump supporters there, and that were protesting the way the counting of the electoral ballot was going, or the acceptance of the electoral ballot. But you and I both know, and you can look at these groups and you can see them, that these people that made the entry, these violent entries into the Capitol, were not Trump supporters. These were people wearing Trump regalia and Trump gear to try and blend in. We know that they were Antifa. We know that they were trouble starters. We know that they were ne'er-do-wells. Listen, at one point, the police backed up and said, "Yeah, come on in. Yeah, whatever. Let's go." And then you hold the door for me and say, "Come on in." I think I might go in too. Hey, at that point, it seems like it might be all right. There's been plenty of arrests from that. And, we'll see how those go. There's been, at my count last night, there was over 300 arrests made over this Capitol incursion, and zero had pled to any charges or made any deals. Every one of them has said, give me my day in court. Now, I'm sorry I got off on a little sidebar. This officer, Brian Sicknick, like we said, Greg, we reported it on Arms Room Radio the day afterwards when the medical, the doctor and the family came out and said that this was natural causes.
Yep.
Was the reason for the death. They didn't say stroke. They said natural causes was the reason for the death. Now we know that it's a stroke. This was a load of crap put forth by the lamestream media the entire time. Oh, remember, it was hitting the head with a fire extinguisher. Oh, it was when he was forced down and he hit his head on the stairs. Then it was bear spray. Remember that one, Craig? He ingested bear spray,
right?
And that's what he died from. It's been a load of crap pushing their agenda the entire time.
But here's the other thing. This is the thing that there was only one person who actually died of violence that day. And that was a person that was an unarmed woman who died at the hands of Capitol Police. She was shot. And by the way, that officer is facing 0 charges.
Been cleared of all those charges, and I'm not convinced that person was a Capitol officer. They were wearing plain clothes. I think it was probably someone in one of those executive protection agencies up there that they did it, because you could clearly see her actually surrounded by the police, with police behind her, the police TAC team or emergency response team behind her, as she approached the door with the window was broken, that she did not break, mind you, because you can watch that in the video. Shot her in the throat, shot an unarmed woman in the throat because they were protecting a hallway that was empty.
Well, and I will say this, just like I've said in any of the rest of these instances, I am all for let's get all the facts, let's get all the information. But what I find odd is that the people who are so quick to want to, if put it to you this way, if this were a black male who was shot by a white officer or an officer at all, people would be at a Black Lives Matter protest. People would be losing their minds, and they would want that officer to be strung up right then and there. But once again, I keep going back to it's a narrative. There's a narrative that they're pushing, and they're not really interested in the facts. They're not really interested in the truth. They're interested in pushing their narrative and their agenda.
Exactly right. Yeah, and that's exactly what they've done here. Again, that woman was shot 5 feet away. And by the way, the officer that was cleared, unnamed officer.
Yes.
Nothing weird about
Interesting how that happens.
Right?
That officer's unnamed. Now, once again, if he'd been a black male, his name would have been in the news on January 7th. His name would have been out there. But that once again goes all back to the agenda. They have no problem releasing or putting information out there about people that they don't like. For example, you guys are all familiar with the story of Kyle Rittenhouse. He's the young man who went to Kenosha, who wound up in a situation where he had to defend himself, wound up shooting 3 people. 2 of them wound up dying, returned home and was then arrested. A lot of people look at that, and I think anybody who looks at all of the video, that evidence that has been provided, it's very hard to make the argument that he's murdered anybody. It's real easy to make the argument that he was defending himself from violent attackers. Now, because they're going after him, because they're trying to get him convicted of first-degree murder, a number of people have decided that they want to help him. They started up a legal fund for him to be able to defend himself, right, in court. Just like he defended himself on the streets, he has a right to be able to defend himself. Well, the GoFundMe for Kyle Rittenhouse was hacked, and someone released a bunch of the information, names and email addresses of people who actually donated. And a local reporter in Utah decided they found amongst the list, they found the name of a local paramedic who donated $10 to Kyle Rittenhouse's defense fund. And they decided to not only out him, they doxed him. They put out his name. They put out where he worked. They actually went and have on camera, you can see them. They went to his house in order to interview him. And let me just show you a snippet from the story here real quick.
The Guardian first reporting Friday morning a Utah paramedic donated to a defense fund for Kyle Rittenhouse. The Guardian reports this donor gave $10 to Rittenhouse on the 30th of August. That was 5 days after police say Rittenhouse shot and killed 2 protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse seen here with his hands up as police moved past him. Officers say he then made his way home to Illinois before authorities made an arrest, charging him with homicide. Rittenhouse says he was in Wisconsin to help protect property as others protested the death of Jacob Blake. I went to Shepard's home to get his side of things, but those inside the home didn't want to talk. West Valley city officials tell me in a statement, "We can confirm that Craig Shepard is an employee of the West Valley City Fire Department. We have become aware of a donation made using his government email account. We are conducting an investigation into this matter. However, such a donation would be representative of personal actions and not those of West Valley City."
Now, Mike, if this is not going beyond the pale when it comes to quote unquote journalism into activism, I don't know what is.
Yeah, this is clearly not journalism in any way whatsoever. This is not how a journalist behaves. But you know what? We haven't seen journalism out of the media, and well, since Dan Rather came up with some fake papers on George Bush's Air National Guard career. We haven't seen real journalism in a very long time. There's only a few left that we see out there, and guess which side of the table they're on. By the way, this is ridiculous. In fact, it makes me want to hold on. I need 10. Craig, let me hold $10. I'm gonna donate more money to the Rittenhouse Foundation here, and
dare the media to show up at my front door.
I want to see him come to my house. Come to my house. Let's do this. I'll make it $11. Not just 10. Maybe get his attention.
But I'm like, in what world should this even be considered appropriate behavior for media?
Oh, in the entitled generation. Oh, I'm allowed to do this. I'm doing it for the right. It's for the good. It's for the cause. So I get to do whatever I want as long as it's what I think is right.
Yeah. It's beyond bad, and people adopt this sort of attitude, and then it spills over into other things. And I'll give you another example. You have a witness who's from Santa Rosa, California, who was a witness for the defense in the Derek Chauvin trial. I know a lot of people are calling it the George Floyd trial, but George Floyd didn't get a trial. This is for the officer who's accused of killing Derek Chauvin. Because he was a witness for the defense, someone went and smeared pig's blood all over the front of their house. Take a look at the pictures here. I mean, if this is not, this is classic witness intimidation. And I'm wondering, once again, what makes someone believe that this is appropriate and okay? And the second thing is, where are the authorities in investigating, witness intimidation?
Yeah, listen, the expert's name, Barry Broad. Barry Broad, he was a defense expert witness on use of force. And Craig, let me make one clarification here. This is not Barry Broad's house. This is where Barry Broad used to live. So the people that are doing the doxing and the witness intimidation can't even get their facts straight. He doesn't live there anymore. He hasn't lived there in a while. It's somebody else's house now. But they thought it was his, so they went there and put this pig's blood on it. Where's the authorities for this witness intimidation? I'll tell you where they are, Craig. They're all sitting back in the police station because they've taken away qualified immunity there in California from many of the stations and many of the agencies. So they're sitting in the department going, you guys figure this one out on your own. You're on your own. Yeah. And when it happens to you, state legislator and state officials, you can figure it out on your own too, because we're done. We're not risking our lives for you anymore. Right.
And people just don't really understand when you see. This is seeking to undermine. Our legal justice system. It's people aren't interested in making sure that justice is done in this case. Their goal is they want to make sure the officers hang. And the reason why I am 100% confident that there's going to be unrest when this is all said and done is because what they want Derek Chauvin to be convicted of isn't even on the table. First-degree murder is, first of all, to prove murder, you have to prove intent. And people have absolutely no idea how hard proving intent actually is. But then on top of it, if you want first-degree murder, you have to prove that it was premeditated, that he went there with the goal of killing. And I'm like, how
of killing
hard do you
George Floyd specifically?
Right.
Yes.
Do you have any idea? Does anyone have any idea how hard that is to prove? But that's not going to stop any of these folks because they're all convinced that that's exactly what it was. I mean, you had Maxine Waters out there basically saying, now, mind you, they've already burned stuff. They've already torn stuff down. You got Maxine Waters out there in the streets of Minneapolis telling them they need to do even more. They need to be even more aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the judge there in the case said, because the defense in the case argued that what Maxine Waters' statements was jury tampering, and that should be cause for a mistrial. And the judge said, I don't believe it's grounds for a mistrial, but I do believe it's grounds for an appeal that you could win. So he left it at that. So listen, they've already screwed themselves here. They're already showing up there with their bullying tactics, with their everybody gets a trophy, with their entitled tactics, and this is how they're going to end up. They're going to end up with their city getting burnt down again. And then you know what they're going to do? They're going to come right back around and go, listen, we burned our city down. Can we get some more money to rebuild it? We're going to need some more.
Oops, we did it again.
I wonder if Foot Locker is going to be there handing out shoes. That's my only big question when it comes to this.
Well, voluntarily or involuntarily.
Either or,
either handing out them shoes. Well, hey, all right. So I want to let's get into our parting shot. And it kind of plays a role in a little bit in this whole conversation about what is about to happen. And it has to do with Chris Cuomo's perspective. You know who Chris Cuomo is? He's the brother of, he's the, Fredo Corleone to his brother, to his brother's Vito. Anyway, never mind. Anyway, check out what he has to say about, what it's going to take to get police reform. Check it out.
And you know what the answer is? You really do. You don't like it. I don't like it. It scares me. Shootings, gun laws, access to weapons. I know when they'll change. Your kids start getting killed. White people's kids start getting killed. Smoking that doobie that's actually legal probably in your state now, but they don't know what it was. And then the kid runs and the pop, 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 pop. Cop was justified. Why'd you run? Oh, he had a baseball game tonight. Oh, a white kid. Oh, big family. That house over there. Those start piling up. What is going on with these police? Oh, what? Maybe we shouldn't even have police. That kind of mania, that kind of madness. That'll be you. That'll be the majority because it's your people.
So when white kids start dying, or white kids are going to basically have to be killed in order for there to become police reform, is what he's saying.
Yeah, first off, it's amazing how Chris Cuomo identifies as every race. Not with every race, but he is every race. He's black some days, he's Asian some days. He just, he takes offense to all of it because it's offending him as the individual. So that Fredo here needs to look in the mirror every once in a while just to check who he is, at least so he can tell the dialogue correctly. I got no problem if you're standing up for other people, but this guy's just a whack job. Good friend of mine, Alan West. Everybody knows Alan West. He's a former Florida state representative, representative to the U.S. House. He's a retired Army officer, and now he's the head of the Texas Republican Party. He had a response to this I want to read to you. It appears that perennial chucklehead Chris Cuomo asserted that there will not be any police or gun reform until white people's kids start getting killed. Hey, Chrissy, since Roe versus Wade, over 20 million black babies have been murdered in the womb. So what will it take to bring about an end to killing black babies in the womb? After all, Planned Parenthood was founded by a white supremacist and a racist who referred to blacks as undesirables and weeds. Stop acting like you and your white, racist, liberal, progressive, socialist friends give a damn about black Americans. It's because of the destructive policies of the Democrat Party that the black community in America has been decimated, including demolishing our families. Yeah, I don't think the Colonel could have said it any better right there. That's what we need to be going on. We talk about this when we talk about the crime in Chicago, the inner city crime, when we see things going on in California, when we look at the gun violence totals and realize that it's all criminal on criminal, black on black for 80% of the violent deaths with firearms. They don't care. They don't care. It's all numbers,
No.
all statistics. They don't care. They're pushing an agenda, Craig. That's
They
all
have an agenda, and that's their agenda. Their agenda is, and keep in mind, their agenda is about tearing down the very fundamental institutions of our country. They want to tear down the family. They want to tear down the church. They want to tear down law and order. They want to tear down our Constitution. You know, all of these things are the things that make our country strong. And because once they've torn those things down, then they can recreate America in their own vision, in their own totalitarian vision, where they control what we think, what we read, what we eat. They are the ones in control because they are so much smarter and better and more moral than the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly right. Listen, once the country is starving and there is no food, then they'll hold out their hand gracefully and allow us to eat out of their hand for them. That's what they're going for. Exactly like you said, Craig. Break us down to nothing and then make us their disciples.
Exactly. And folks, if y'all don't see that, if you don't see that, once again, I just encourage you, take some time, go read the Communist Manifesto, read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and you will start to see a lot of the correlations, in particular with what's going on with the whole with the Black Lives Matter, and how they've basically taken classes and they've transposed them with race. It's all about oppressed oppressor. All right. And so that in this case, instead of it being, based on class, it's based on race. But the terminology hasn't changed. The goal hasn't changed. The tools haven't changed. And the end result of what will happen won't change, won't be any different either.
That's it. Exactly right. 100%. Do it, folks. Do some research. Be enlightened. Know what we're talking about. Know what you hear in the news and how to make your own decisions. Do your own research. Do it.
Yeah. I wish the parting shot could have been a little bit more uplifting today, but hey, it is what it is. It's Taco Tuesday, so we'll just go out and we'll get some tacos and all will be okay.
It's raining tacos.
All right, folks. Hey, well, that's going to be it for this edition of The Rundown. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends to do the same.
Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you on Wacky Wednesday.
Hump Day.
Hump Day.